So far, no help for U.S. authorities in trying to nab Edward Snowden.
The world's major telecommunication firms have been working alongside a British intelligence agency, handing over swathes of private data.
Britain's eavesdropping centre, GCHQ, is running the biggest operation.
You have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear about the British state or intelligence agencies listening to the contents of your phone calls.
This kind of vast and encompassing kind of technology does not distinguish between innocent private citizens and targeted suspects.
Distance from Earth, 3,140 nautical miles.
Tempora is the code name for a secret program which GCHQ, the Government Communications Headquarters, run. The main part of the Tempora program is tapping of transatlantic cables, which include any communications, basically internet, kind of telephone, text messages. There's the potential to capture up to 21 petabytes of data a day, which is the equivalent of sending all the information in the British Library 192 times a day. We know about this because of documents that were leaked by the NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden. There's around 300 to 400 analysts who look through that data. However, in terms of the intelligence services more broadly in the UK, it's been suggested that it's around 10,000 people that actually have access to that data. So there's GCHQ, MI5 and MI6. In the States, supposedly around 850,000 NSA workers and government contractors who have access to that information.
I, sitting my desk, certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
XKeyscore, a quote, top secret national security agency program.
This is ground control operation. Urgent.
There's a program called XKeyscore, which, so you start off with the session data on the internet, so kind of the content you're looking at. That's then categorized, so you've got, email, telephone calls, etc. It's then put through a series of filters and then stored in a database, which an analyst can query.
Guardian columnist Ben Greenwald is reporting on a tool called XKeyscore.
The analyst sits at his or her desk and they search for things when they don't even know the person that they're searching for. They can search just by general keyword, or they search email accounts for certain words, or they search user browser histories or Google searches for names, and then they start assigning suspicion to people and then tracking them.
Every citizen in the UK is affected by this. I think in terms of scope, it's unprecedented, basically. I mean, if you anyone who is aware of what went on when the Stasi operated, it was, incredibly invasive. Any mail that was sent, you had no expectation of privacy. So people were shocked by that, but then they're not shocked that someone could potentially very easily read all their emails or texts or communications.
We have a weak signal strength.
Shall we play a game?
Citizens of the world. We are anonymous.
Since we invited you to show our fellow citizens that our privacy matters,
we, as anonymous hacktivists, want every citizen on the planet to know that the surveillance state is unnecessary to our security.
This is Houston, how do you read?
Defence advisory notices have allegedly been issued to major media outlets to not report or have limited reporting on a certain issue. Potentially, if organisations don't follow these, then journalists or broadcasters could be open to prosecution under the Official Secrets Act.
Government censorship is one form of control, when citizens have to accept what they're told. Despotism stands a good chance.
It's difficult to know in terms of the way the UK law stands because we've had very little debate or communication on it. Supposedly, the UK government aren't allowed to spy on its own citizens through this kind of system unless there's an individual warrant.
Unauthorized personnel clear the area. Repeat, unauthorized personnel clear the area.
If you look at quotes from GCHQ's own legal advisors, which have been published in The Guardian, quote, "We have a light oversight regime compared with the US." And the second quote, "We are less concerned by NSA's concerns about compliance." The NSA is actually funding GCHQ.
The US government has paid at least £100 million to the UK spy agency over the past 3 years. In return for this money, they've got access to and influence over Britain's intelligence gathering programs.
The NSA view GCHQ as an asset because of that lighter oversight, so they're not as constrained as the NSA are. If someone's got a complaint against the security services, they'd need to go to the IPT, which is the Investigatory Powers Tribunal. This tribunal operates in secret. They don't have to give the reasons for their decisions, and there's no platform for appeal. By GCHQ's own admission until documents they've said, so far they always have found in our favour.
GCHQ has been praised by the commissioners who look at these things recently for the highest standards of integrity.
Of course, you've never seen me before.
The Guardian quoted an analyst who said that there were 4 criteria that they use, which is security, terror, organised crime and Britain's economic well-being. Say you just go into the economic well-being statement, well, what does that mean? It's a very broad term which they could use to say, well, it means this. Say you're a political dissident or a whistleblower or, an activist. If the government decides to take an interest in you, then you're fair game, basically.
U.S. officials have charged NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden with espionage.
The man is a traitor. This is an act of war against the United States. For treason, as in the case of Bradley Manning or Edward Snowden, you bring back the death penalty.
Snowden has been a step ahead of U.S. authorities so far.
You simply have to eventually fall under suspicion from somebody, even by a wrong call, and then they can use the system to go back in time and scrutinize every decision you've ever made, every friend you've ever discussed something with, and attack you on that basis to sort of derive suspicion from an innocent life and paint anyone in the context of a wrongdoer.
Burn the witch!
This level of surveillance on citizens is unprecedented. I don't think we can assume that people who work for the government are always going to act lawfully, and if an operative were to act outside of the realms of the law, we would probably never hear about that as the public. Look at things like the Independent Police Complaints Commission, which we have as a body to complain to the police. They very rarely rule against the police, and they're a public body. We as the public have no such public body with the intelligence services. We just have to take William Hague and others at their word that if you have nothing to hide, you're fine, basically.
Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. And remember, my friend, future events such as these will affect you in the future.
That it could happen in America. That it could happen now. That it could ever happen to me.